If you go back to 2008, it's pretty much on a straight line. You know, when President Trump got elected, it was a little blip. Some of the things he's done, it's taken it back to the straight line. So it's pretty much, you know, where you'd expect it to be. There hasn't been, I mean, like any market, there's going to be ups and downs, but there hasn't been anything dramatic to change it. Markets tend to just go up, you know, on their own, by their own weight. And so there's no reason for that to change now. Maybe if the trade war extends or something happens with Iran, or, you know, again, there's something aberrational that puts us in a difficult situation, then it could change. But otherwise, I mean, there's no reason to think that, other than stocks, individual stocks, you know, doing what they do, that the market won't continue to go up on the same line that it has since 2008.
What do you think about the SEC, just generally speaking?
I think they're kind of useless. You know, I think if the SEC really wanted to make the market safer, they would publish bright line guidelines. So, for instance, there's no law, specific law on insider trading. There are only precedents, legal precedents, that have been set as a result of various cases that the SEC has brought. Well, if you run a public company, that's okay because you probably have a general counsel who's training you in doing it, on what you should and shouldn't do. If you're just an investor, you have no idea. You're not a lawyer, and you shouldn't be responsible for, you know, talking to a lawyer before you decide to talk to somebody at a company or make or sell or buy or sell a stock. And I'll give you the perfect example of some of the stupidity. There was a case, and I forget the name of it, where a guy was going to work. It was a railroad company in Illinois, I think. And every day he'd go to work. One day in the parking lot that everybody shared, there was a bunch of limos. And then another day there was a bunch of limos. Mm-hmm. Then another day, the guy literally guessed that the company was being sold. And he bought stock. The SEC sued him.
Right.
Now the SEC lost, but that's just some of the ridiculous stuff that they do. I'll give you another one. We had a company, Share Sleuth, that did research on some companies, and they found a company that was putting out press release after press release about how great their business was with this new energy solution, I think it was. And we sent somebody out there to just look at the factory, or just called. We didn't even send it. We just called the factory. Nobody answered. Then we called somebody local, I think it was the power company, and said, do you have power turned on for this location? No. Called up somebody local, go look at this building. Nobody was there, right? Company, we shorted stock, company died. The SEC did nothing. Didn't care.
Yeah, so what's the difference, right?
I love AOC, right? I don't always agree with her, but I think she's learned the lesson of social media, where you get long and you get loud and you get people's attention, and then you deal with substance after that.
But what do you think when she says that the idea that we have billionaires in our society is immoral?
I mean, it makes for great headline porn. I mean, she started a business. Bernie Sanders has a book business. You know, Elizabeth Warren buys and sells houses, or did, right? If they would have had the level of success that I and others have had, I don't think they'd be complaining as much. But that doesn't mean that there's not an income inequality problem. There is. And it's something we have to deal with. I tell, you know, other business people that, you know, the greatest cost to business is social disruption. If people are rebelling and burning things and aren't satisfied with their lives, and they're incented to do horrific things, that's the greatest cost to business, and that costs us more. Now the question becomes, how do you deal with
address it? Yeah.
Right? So I'm not a fan of trickle-down economics, right? Where I don't think that works. I don't think it has worked. Where, you know, the richer people get, the more they make available to others. Hasn't worked. I'm also not a fan of trickle-down taxation, right? The concept that just tax, you know, those who have a whole lot more, then all of a sudden it'll find its way to those who need it. Doesn't work, hasn't worked, won't work. It's not that taking more money. I'm okay with paying more taxes. I don't have a problem with that. Where the issue is, how do you make it work?
Yeah.
Right? How do you get it? Now, the reality is, anybody who's working and getting paid by the hour is going to have a challenge when something goes wrong. Right? Do you lose a job? Does the dishwasher break? Does somebody get sick? Is it more than your deductible, or if you haven't covered your deductible yet, can you cover your deductible? If you're getting paid by the hour, it's hard to save money. I don't care if it's $10 an hour, $15 or $50 an hour. It's a difficult position. The only way that people really improve their wealth is by buying a house, condo, whatever it may be, owning shares of stock. And so I think that's where you start to change the rules. I think when you have a company like Uber changed, but who was it that just was it Pinterest, where there's multiple shares, like Snap has got multiple classes of stock.
Yeah.
I think you tax them differently. If every share of stock in a company in the public market is not treated the same, then it should be it shouldn't be. If you have an advantage class of stock,
right,
it should be treated as normal income when you sell that stock.
Right.
If everybody's got the same share of class of stock, then you treat it as capital gains. Right. If you've held it for more than a year, I think you also advantage people. If you have a company where all employees are offered stock, you give them other tax advantages.
Right.
Because then, to AOC's point, you're lifting from the bottom up. Trickle down is not going to work. But if you create opportunities where people all have to share in stock, then the disparity is going to decline because everybody's going to go up when things happen. Like when we sold broadcast.com, we created 300 millionaires because 300 out of 330 people had vested their stock.
Right.
So when you work from the bottom up like that, people have a chance to increase the value of their wealth. If somebody's below a certain level of income and they're able to buy a home and you give them more tax advantage, you don't take away their deductions because they're in California or New York.
Right.
When they have a lower income. Now they did some things to offset, but still, you want people to be able to accumulate assets that enhance, that grow in value, that appreciate. That's how you get people so that their life becomes better. Now everybody's got a platform, so it's a lot easier to bitch. I call it headline porn. You're only going to get attention. The more dramatic you are, the better chance you have of getting attention. And that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, there used to be gatekeepers to media. Now there's not. And if you're loud enough and either crass enough, or maybe it's a great idea and people get behind it enough, then you're going to be heard. It doesn't make us bad. It's just the game has changed.
You've got an ordinary person, ordinary man or woman. How much of an iconoclast could you or should you be like Mark Cuban?
Oh, I don't care. You should just be yourself, right? I mean, I take pride in the fact that I didn't give a shit what anybody thought or said. I was just going to be myself, and I'm my dad's son, I'm my mom's son, I'm my brother's brother. I'm Alexis, Alyssa, and Jake's father, Tiffany's husband. I just try to do the best like everybody else. I mean, I've been blessed. Like I say all the time, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and I just try not to take it for granted. I try to enjoy every minute, and I think now as I've gotten a little bit older, I try to give a little bit more back than I have before, and try to help more people. And in terms of whatever, if anybody else finds himself in my position, just enjoy the moment, enjoy every minute of it.